When you drink a bottle of fabulous rum-scuttle bubbles and giggles is part of the plan. It's yummy and clubby and jiggles your tummy and soon you's off with a whiz-boppy bang.
The BFG. Based on the classic children's novel by Roald Dahl, this movie is said to have a very special significance with the author. Some of you may have heard that, despite his involvement with the film, Dahl was known to be pretty vocal about how much he hated Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, so he could be a pretty picky guy when it comes to his adaptations. However, back when this was released in 1989, Dahl and his family decided to check it in theaters, and there have been reports of him giving it a standing ovation. So by Roald's logic, this one sucks, but this is great. What the fridge makes this one so special? I've honestly never read the book myself, so I'll be experiencing this with fresh eyes. So is there something in the BFG that actually puts it on top of Willy Wonka? Or is this a big friendly giant pile of crap? Let's find out. The story. There is actually an interesting transition with the story throughout the entire feature, starting off as simple and whimsical down to becoming pretty action-packed. During the beginning, it mostly consists of expositions and descriptions about the world that the story is based on, like what giants normally do, the BFG's job, what is giant country, and more. It might sound rather dull and filled with nothing but talking, but luckily, thanks to the execution of the character of the BFG, it knows how to deliver the scenes in a more whimsical manner that Dahl is known for in his books. A good example is by completely turning the whole Whiz Popper scene into a musical number.
Whiz pop, whiz bang, feel the bubbles go down. Whiz bang, whiz pop, bursting all around.
Soon afterwards though, once the other giants come into play, that's when the movie goes straight into action with a clear mission. This is where some of the whimsy had to be dropped in order to give awareness that now there is actual risk and danger going on with the giants eating kids. Some could argue that it could go into a bit of a ridiculous territory, since part of the solution to save kids involved freaking Queen Elizabeth. But then again, it is based on a children's novel, and especially with the whole delightfully whimsical tone, it can get away with it. But the biggest component that stays throughout the entire movie is the relationship between the BFG and Sophie, where we learn why the giant had to take her in the first place and discover everything about giant country. This is where the heart of the story would reside, looking through the eyes of Sophie as she gets to accompany the BFG in his regular life on crafting dreams, and seeing how they need each other to enrich their own lives by having a friend to be happy. It's not easy trying to adapt a children's novel into a feature film. This one, however, grabbed the heart of the story and was capable of making it shine. The animation. On one hand, there shouldn't be too much to expect from a TV animation studio like Cosgrove Hall, the same company that worked on Danger Mouse and Count Duckula. But then again, you could tell that the people there are leveling up their game. In terms of the animation, this is somewhere in that weird position of quality, where it might not have the theatrical finesse of either Disney or Don Bluth during that time, but it is way better than what you would get on television. This is most evident with the character animation, where some scenes could look more limited due to budgetary reasons, and then there are times when it can really look impressive, like some of the introductions to the giants to present the sheer size of the creatures.
You've been talking in here, talking? No. Yes.
Another impressive element of the animation is when the evil giants go on a rampage against the BFG. As for the designs, they took the look of what's already been done by Quentin Blake and gave it a much more refined, clean, and detailed style, resulting in many creative designs on the giants and the queen's subjects, and giving Her Magister herself a more realistic look. But then you have Sophie herself. I understand that Brian Cosgrove wanted to model her after Roald Dahl's granddaughter, but they really made her look like a boy. Maybe it's the short haircut or the more rounded nose, but after a bit of research, it's much more easier to identify her as a girl in the book than in here. Then again, it could also be to have that gender-neutral vibe for the audience to identify with her more easily, no matter who it is. But then there are the backgrounds. What they are in general may seem ordinary enough, like a cave, or a village, or Buckingham Palace, but even the execution there is quite a sight to behold, just by the artistry in the environment. I wouldn't say it's the most impressive animation I've seen, but for what it is, I was still rather impressed. The characters. There might not be a lot to say about these characters. Maybe there are a few minor roles here and there, but this movie mostly consists of Sophie and the BFG himself. With Sophie, she would be more like the Avatar character. She doesn't really have much of a personality of her own other than being the kind-hearted orphan, so her point is for the audience to imagine themselves in her place. So where Sophie would be rather forgettable, the BFG, however, would be hard to forget. In a way, he is the one that really carries this feature. Not only is he fascinating conceptually as this nice giant whose job is to bring good dreams to children, but even his personality brings out the charm of this movie with a more bubbly personality and speaking in a broken English. Like I said before though, the other characters here are not as prominently featured as the main two, but they still do have a point here. Since there are other giants presented, the ones who did something and had time to actually present themselves are Blood Bottler in the first act and Flesh Lump Eater more towards the end. They present themselves more beast-like, and they even tower over the BFG to show that they can really be a threat to both protagonists. They make out to become great villains, and probably some of the most threatening ones from the mind of Roald Dahl. As for Queen Elizabeth, I get what the filmmakers were doing. This is made in the UK, so of course they have to present her as a great leader that commands with grace and capable of bringing in peace upon the land. However, I will say that she kinda takes everything that's happening a little too well. The amount of significant characters is rather small, but thanks to the help of the giants and especially the BFG, they can still leave a good impact upon the film. Hidden beneath all those movies based on Roald Dahl books like Willy Wonka and Matilda, the BFG is a rather underappreciated and charming feature. It can have a bit of its whiz poppers, but thanks to the help of an enchanting story, a lovable interpretation of the BFG himself, and some animation that can be well crafted, it's one of those rare children's book adaptations that knows how to bring to life the heart and the whimsy that made Roald Dahl the legend we know him today. Maybe this is not in the same levels of other animated doll films like Fantastic Mr. Fox, but fans of the author will find a true appreciation for this film. Just like how Dahl himself gave it that standing ovation those many years ago. Hey guys, this is Animat. Now, I'm pretty sure that you guys are curious that since now I have reviewed the 1989 animated feature of the BFG, now you are probably wondering regarding my thoughts on the 2016 live-action BFG movie directed by Steven Spielberg. Well, coincidentally enough, me and a good friend of mine who is also a Roald Dahl expert, we decided that to commemorate me reviewing the BFG, we decided to sit together and just check out the live-action movie to see how it would fare compared to the animated feature. He has already seen it, but again, like I said in the beginning of the review, I'm just watching it with fresh eyes. And if I can be very honest, yeah, I mean, hands down, the animated film is far superior, which is honestly really surprising because with the live-action movie, it seems like it has all the right components to make such a phenomenal film. I mean, you got Disney behind it, it's directed by Steven Spielberg, which he has done such a great job with material like this, like with the Adventures of Tintin, and it's based on a Roald Dahl story. I mean, how is it that you can go wrong? Well, I did think about it, and at least in terms of the comparisons, I feel like with the animated film, they have a much better BFG. Like, anybody could probably tell you who has seen the film and they enjoyed it, like, the one thing that really makes this movie, like, good and why many people like it and it has a cult following is the BFG himself. He is charming, he is delightful, he has such a great bubbly personality, you know? This is someone that you definitely want to hang out with. So, like, definitely, the BFG is way better here. But when you get the 2016 live-action movie, the dude here, it's like you strip off all the whimsy and all the bubbly personality sort of thing, and you just got, like, this dude who's just so dazed and confused, and he looks freaking high as a kite throughout the whole picture. That's the whole thing, where, you know, you got this eccentric old man on one side, and then you got a stoner in the other. That's pretty much the biggest thing. But then there was also another factor, is that in the live-action movie, there is no sense of peril. There is no sense of danger whatsoever. Like, whenever there's a scene where you feel like there should be, you know, like a sense of threat or danger, they just replace it with more whimsy. And you don't really see, like, the evil giants, like even a hint of them doing bad actions, like them eating children or stuff like that. You only see, like, it's all talk, but no action. Like, you don't really see anything. Like, it's the kind that it wants you to take their word. But the biggest thing, and, like, the biggest reason why it's all like this, it's the live action's representation of the other giants. Oh my god. Like, in the animated film, they are threatening because they are more beast-like. But in here, okay, I'm gonna put it in the nicest way possible, but the giants in the live-action film, they're special. And I actually do mean they're special. That's the biggest problem. Like, I couldn't even make jokes about it. Like, I sympathize with them more than, like, be scared of them. Like, you know, they're causing mischief and mayhem because they just don't know any better, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of the biggest, like, those are, like, some of the biggest flaws that makes it inferior to the animated film. But I will say, though, that the live-action BFG is not a bad movie entirely. There are still some good components. In fact, there are some components that it actually did better than in the animated film. Like, it actually has a better Sophie, it has a much more believable Queen Elizabeth, and the visuals are fantastic. Like, that's one thing I cannot take away from the live-action film, is that visually, it is beautiful. Like, they really nailed it down so well upon the looks, like, to really make this big budgeted BFG movie. It looks absolutely grand. So overall, I would say that even though the live-action BFG is not bad, there's a very high chance that people would much prefer the animated film in terms of movie adaptations of the BFG. But anyways, that is pretty much going to be it with the BFG, and now it's time that we go and move on to the animation hat. And one more thing I would like to say, if you guys would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animetsreviews@gmail.com. Okay, so with all that said, what do you know? I managed to get it real quick. And so, the next one shall be, hold on, if I can, okay, hold on, I need control of the paper, that's the thing. No way! No way! Yes! Yes! Oh my god! Oh my god, this movie. Oh, I am so glad to go back with that film. I kid you not. Like, with this right here, I struck gold. I legit struck gold. Yes!
Was built by the divinities, by gods, who saw fit to bestow.
I hope you're not going to be rude.